Here is a testimonial for the highest paid part-time job in the world from Katrina Alexander.
So I'm approaching 3 years in this academy. All of my accounts have increased trading, investments, business, and personal accounts. This academy can produce results in all areas of your life when you do the work. Yes, you have to work on your psychology and mindset to get the results.
So glad everybody was able to come through today, watch this video. Diamond Dave, I'm here with Chastity. And what we're going to talk about is a really, really good story that came out last week. And we wanted to kind of touch on it, kind of give some more insight to it, and also ask you what you think about it. And this is the article from the Wall Street Journal. And what they're talking about is Black investors being the biggest group of stock buyers. We want to kind of investigate this a little bit more and also talk about what are some of the implications of this article, how we think it can impact people on a larger scale. So what's going on, Chastity? How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great. So you brought this article to me. I thought it was really, really interesting. What are some of the things that when you saw this article kind of jumped out to you?
When I first saw it, it was a meme or somebody else had already posted it floating around, I think, on another platform. And I was just like, this is very interesting because I've started to see it more on my timeline, but that's just on Facebook. I only reach so many people. So for the Wall Street Journal to recognize it and then do the study, that was very captivating to me.
Yeah, definitely. So before, like, you read this article, were you aware that Black investors or Black people are really invested in the stock market? Was that something that you were really familiar with?
Through trading, I thought it was more traders, but not really stock investing. I thought that was somewhere where we might have still been lacking. So this was very informative to me because I didn't know. And then, just the shares, the meme stock, they did point that out that was a big thing. 401k, meme stock, and crypto have gotten us more involved. And I think social media has really, made that boom.
I knew a lot of Black people in kind of like in the trading space. And I knew we had a little bit of exposure to the market, but it wasn't as much as I seen with other groups. So this article saying 40% of Black Americans own stocks in 2022, up from just up under a third. So it's up from 1/3, around 30% to now 40%. According to the most recent federal data. So during that same time period, the share of white households with stocks grew to 2/3, up from 61%. So initially what we're saying is we went from about a third to 40%. What do you kind of think is the reason to where the involvement in buying the equities or owning stocks has kind of increased?
I think the accessibility of it. Before you would have to go, I guess, call in and get shares that way, but just knowing what companies are about, again, I think the meme stock with GameStop kind of got people involved in owning those shares. And then social media and different platforms like Netflix, you're learning about that background with what investing or holding stock provides. So again, I didn't own shares. I started trading before I owned shares. And then when I learned more, that's when I started to become a shareholder.
When you were trading, what made you feel comfortable to say, well, instead of me just trading the equity, I'm going to start buying it?
The value of the stock.
Okay.
So in the background in your course, so we go into the data behind not just trading to make the money, but the financials of those companies. So I was like, okay, this would be my next step. Do I just trade to make money to make more money? This is the next step after I make that money, is to make that money work for me, and owning the shares and taking it a step further, acquiring dividends from those shares is more lucrative.
Okay. And just from your own personal experience, are you more a fan of the individuals or are you more a fan of the indexes?
I'm a little 50-50. I have my personal favorites, but I think the index overall is just a safe way to go. So you don't have to individualize what you're looking for. The only reason I have some individuals is because they were splitting and I could take advantage of having more shares in the long run. And so that's what stands out to me. But I if you don't know what you're looking for, I like the S&P, just go with the standard.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big fan of also getting the indexes, also doing maybe a little bit of individual stocks. One of the biggest challenges with the way the indexes and what we're going to use the term composed or weighted is often when I'm buying something, individual is also represented in the index.
Yeah.
And that's something that I wasn't aware of when I started. And that's something I would really tell people to kind of look at. Sometimes you're getting double exposure by buying an individual stock that's really weighted high in the index, like an Apple or Amazon, and maybe sometimes even a Tesla, now Nvidia. And so you're kind of getting double exposure. And I think that's something that a lot of people may not be aware of. What I'm not a fan of, and we're going to kind of talk about in this article, is chasing the individual kind of like meme type stocks. And there's a woman in this particular article that went into that particular direction. So the article says 70% of Black respondents under 40 years old were investing. compared with 60% of white investors in the same age group in 2022. So we're seeing a larger movement of people under 40. From your experience coaching, doing what you do, what is it, Know Better, Do Better Consult, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so with your consulting in a particular space, have you found that a lot of people under 40 are a lot more involved in the market than maybe previously they were 10, 15 years ago?
Definitely.
Okay.
I get more clients younger and younger. And again, because they're getting exposed, they're seeing the get rich quick first, or they're seeing advertisement from their top people that they follow. So a lot of investors have their favorite rappers come and promote on there. So when they see these people that look like them or doing things that they like and they're investing, it makes them want to do it more. It's not just about the rap videos with the cars now. It's like, oh, they're investing in this company, or the Jay-Z's and Kanye West, when they see those shares, or they have Gap, they have their brands and they're connecting with these brands. Now they can see, okay, that's another step. It's not just about the glitter and glam, it's the money on the back end. Makes it more attractive to them, and they want to invest and then find somebody that looks like them to kind of show them the ropes.
Do you think that this particular trend can go a little bit more widespread? Because we know how big like media and social media things are, especially with younger people, and how they kind of mimic what they think important people are doing. Do you think this will always be maybe like a niche thing, or it'll get bigger? And also, do you think that this movement will stand the test of time? You think it's going to just be like a little, like a fad and fall back, or it's going to kind of continue to get bigger over time?
I think if the younger generation continues to follow steps with it, it
Okay.
will continue to be a niche, but I think it will continue to stay trendy. And I only say that because there is a step back with math. So that goes back to the education and reading. If they don't have that foundation, this area is going to be kind of a uncomfortable space for them.
Okay.
So unless they have that guidance. So again, we start with math, learning, educating, and kind of reading. If it's not something they can point and click and say, oh, this person doing it and I can just go do it, copycat, it might be a little hindrance. So that's why I say it may stay a niche, but it is growing at a faster pace than I ever saw.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think social has helped it out a lot, because you're able to kind of link with people that look like you and talk like you that are involved in this particular space. I just wonder, what it'd take, if ever, if it becomes kind of like the thing, because we notice that a lot of things work on trends, and the internet and mainstream media has a big impact on that. And just wondering, will this ever become like a trend like sports? But we kind of understand a lot of these trends are big amongst Black people because they benefit other people. Will this ever benefit other groups of people to where they start promoting to us to do this as opposed to being involved in these other things?
I don't think it'll go promotion to us. I think
Okay.
it'll still go in amongst their group. And that's the thing with us. We promote inside of our group up to a certain extent, and then we spread out amongst that because they're more receptive. So again, our own group or culture has to decide that they want to keep it afloat.
I feel you. I feel you. Now, the article says that you're seeing topics of money and investing come up at the dinner table slightly more among Black families than they ever had before. And that's something I talked about. So growing up, we never really talked about investing. Like, I knew about 401ks, retirement pension plans, things of that nature. But we never really talked about buying stock, investing, definitely not real estate. And I think that's something that's really, really important, because I think for a lot of other people, this conversation is normal to them. So they're accustomed to having a conversation and being involved with it. And I think it's so abnormal to a lot of people. They sometimes don't think that they should be participating in it, or it seems like I'm kind of out of place. In your experience, do you think that by having more of these type of conversations amongst the family, it can help increase participation in this particular area?
I definitely do. When you eat at the dinner table, those are things you take back with you and you exemplify throughout. And you're going to remember that because you're associated with food. That's a comfort. So if this is a comfort and a safe space to talk about it, it's going to grow with you. You're going to be comfortable talking about it outside the home because you have a strong knowledge about it, or you have backup and support. So most of the things we share at the dinner table, we're comfortable saying outside of our household, stuff that we've learned, or because like my daddy said it. So I know if my daddy said it, it's to be true. Or if my mother said it, it's to be true. So I think bringing it up at the dinner table is great. Like, again, in my household, we didn't talk about it much. I heard about Kroger because my grandmother was invested in it and had shares. But I think when Kroger tanked, that was the big thing. I'm not doing the stock market. I'm not dealing with that stuff because I lost money. So that was my only association with it, was losing money. So again, it's a powerful place, but also it could be a hindrance on how it's presented.
Yeah, definitely. I do think knowing people that have lost money in the market, and I tell people this all the time, and I'm not talking about your grandmother's specific situation, but I tell people all the time, often when you're in the markets, if you don't know how you're making the money, you also don't know how you lost it. And I think really understanding like what I'm invested in, how this company actually makes money, how it can be impacted by things going on, is to where when things go bad, you know whether or not you need to cut your losses or stay in the situation. And I think that's something that a lot of people want to try to understand, because sometimes if you just wrote it out, the situation got even bigger 10, 15 years later.
Right.
Right. And so I think that's something that a lot of people want to understand. Now, this brother, Pinckney 21, it said that he got introduced to the stock market by his grandfather. They had that type of relationship. He put around 22,000 into companies like BlackRock, Berkshire Hathaway, Progressive, and JP Morgan Chase. So he was buying individual stocks.
Right.
And he ended up after that with around 75,000 in his brokerage accounts. So he's 21, so he's already way ahead of the average person, because there's people twice his age that got zero, right? So he just stays consistent with what he's doing. He'll be all right if he just maintains himself. Now, he was introduced by his grandfather. In your, doing what you're doing and dealing with the people that you're doing, have you seen people feel like, well, you know what, because somebody else in my family's doing this, that's my point of entry? Or is it 100% from like the internet or social media?
I've seen probably 30 to 40% have family members that were more advanced, but they've been around the stock market or the New York Exchange more influential, and they don't know how to break down what they know to teach them. So they have an entry point, but they don't know how to teach. And they've gotten some knowledge from somewhere else. Maybe somebody else taught them, or they were investing through their company. So this young man had quite a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, definitely he did, because he was he was raised around it. So he understood what it was. And so it put him in a situation to where he was not unfamiliar with it when it came up. And he also didn't have fear in the market. And I think a lot of times the unfamiliarity, it creates a fear because you really don't know where your money's going. Okay. Now, stocks been the key driver of wealth building for Americans. Black Americans are still far behind white households' assets market participation. So they say that median wealth for the typical white family was $285, compared with $44,000 for the typical black family. Now, this is one of the issues I have with these type of numbers. They can be legitimate. I think there's a historical aspect to that. And I think the challenge is that it makes people feel like, well, the gap is so wide, I shouldn't do anything, because there's a big difference between 285 and 44,000. However, I want people to kind of understand that you sometimes want to take this incrementally and generationally. And when we're talking about generational wealth, it's said that because it's not supposed to be done by one person.
Right.
And so because we're a group of people that weren't allowed to participate in a lot of things, we were kept out. It's not going to happen overnight. And I think sometimes when people look at the gap between us and white America, they think, well, the gap is so big, we can't do anything about it. But I want to really encourage somebody that you can start the change in your family and then just keep building on over time, even when you're not here. From your own perspective and how you've been doing things, what about you and what you're doing is you decided, well, you know what, I want to be the person in my family, and if not the only person, but part of the people in my family, to start making this change to close that wealth gap?
I think it's our own personal drive.
Okay.
And again, like my trading, I teach my students to start and take their 30%.
Okay.
So I wouldn't see that wealth gap as I got to get to 285.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the next increment. I need to get to 45,000. Then I need to get to 50,000. How can I make a small adjustment to increase my income level in my household? Not try to increase the whole world on that level. Let me increase it in my household. And if I can increase it in my household, show my next family member how to do that on a scale. So again, when people take small bites, they're able, you can eat a whole pie that way. But if you try to attack the whole pie, you're going to get a stomach ache. You're going to mess up. So I think that's where people, you just got to take your time, break it down, not try to do it. And again, we have to understand there are going to be certain aspects of that white household that may be different from yours. Again, that generational wealth. So you're one person building. So again, it takes cooperation, collaboration to make that means come together.
For me, I never let that number overwhelm me to where I felt like the number's so big I shouldn't do anything about it. And what you're doing, how are you able to look at this particular data and not get discouraged to where you felt like the number's so big, I shouldn't even try to stop it or try to deal with it, because the gap is so wide, I can't do anything about it anyway. Like, what was your motivation?
I've always wanted more.
Okay.
So you gotta be hungry. Like, I didn't start at the bottom. Like, a lot, you hear the people say, I started out the mud, I got it out the mud. I didn't. If I've already had a level of being able to be productive, it should be a little twice as easy for me to do it versus the person who is getting it out the mud. So I see myself at an advantage. Why shouldn't I be making this, and what steps I got to do? Most people sit back and be like, oh, I'm gonna blame game the situation. No, let me see how I can be productive and increase my income. And that what drove me to you to learn how to trade. If it's not going to come in income, okay, I might need to form a business. And if I form a business, then I can increase my income by my own means, not based on somebody else. So I think a lot of people take that and go entrepreneurship and just be like, oh, I got to get that quote unquote 6 figures, when you just might need to make another 10K and be where you need to be.
I 100% agree with you. It's not always, I need to get rid of my job. It's not always that. It's not always I need to make 100,000 a year. Money spends different based on what part of the country you at. And just like you said, it can sometimes take a 10K or 20K more a year to really change your whole life, to create that buffer to where you're not stressed out about money. You're not worried about an emergency, things of that nature. And I think that's something often people don't think about. They want to get that big number because I think sometimes they think they need to live a certain lifestyle, but often they maybe want to consider it may be something well under that can really change my life. Because we often know that when people start making a certain amount of money, it doesn't necessarily always increase their standing of living once they hit a certain number, also based on how the life is set up.
I was just gonna say, like, they think their lifestyle has to increase once they increase their income. So if you limit at your means and you just want a little more, and that's what I saw. You said that multiple times in a lot of your shows. What does that number look like for you, or what does that lifestyle look for me? So when I really internalized that, I was like, it's really not 6 figures, and it's really not a 2-3 story house, because heck, I don't want to clean it. Exactly. I need enough space for my family and be comfortable. We need room to do what we want to do, and then I'm happy. It's not the same outlook for somebody living in Georgia in a mansion. That's not the means I want to keep up. You just have to depend on your lifestyle. But if you chasing somebody else's dream, it's going to always become more difficult, and still it's never going to be enough money.
Yeah, definitely. You're 100% correct. Same thing with the big houses. Where I'm from, it's so hot. You got to cool that house. So I'd be thinking about that second floor, keeping that thing cool, that AC running all day, especially in the summer. So yeah, that's something I definitely didn't want to do. And I 100% agree with you. You got to kind of know your number and where it's at and what is it going to take for you to be happy. And I think that's something people really don't think about. Like you said, they trying to live somebody else's life. And I think that's where you can get caught up. And me personally, I do like to live at or under, because to be real with you, I don't really like to spend money. I'm not a cheap person, but I just like to make money. I had to learn how to invest in what we're talking about today. I like to just sit back and see the money stack up. And I had to learn to take the money and put it somewhere to invest in, instead of just letting it sit there and not really growing. Because I'm not a big fan of just spending a lot of money. That's never really been my personality. So I tell people all the time is you got to kind of try to get a life that works for you based on what you're trying to do. And then just determine, like, what do I need to do to get there? And often we talked about before, it's not always $100,000 more. It sometimes could be $20,000, $30,000 a year. And then you can build up from that. Now, we know that a lot of people are getting their information now because of social, because of how big it is. This article says that a lot of Black investors, they turn to social media for investment information. Nearly 3/4 of Black investors rely on information from friends, family, and colleagues for investing, compared with 58% of white investors. Then more of half of Black investors are more likely to use social media groups or message boards as a source for investment information, compared with 1/4 of white. So based on your experience, I know you're really big on social. What are some of the pros and cons you think of an investor getting their information strictly off social media?
Lack of research.
Okay.
They're not going to do anything different. They're going to get that information. They're going to run with it. They're not going to go that extra step to do the research. But I think also those white counterparts have an advantage because they have that in their community, that people already have that background or have that education a little bit ahead of us. So again, I pride our community on at least getting information, but we do need to take one step ahead to go back and fact check or double check some of those details. So just so you could be secure, like you said, you could lose money investing if you don't know what the money is going. If you don't know how you made it, you're going to lose it as well, like you said. So that research is very important.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is, until you kind of know who you're dealing with, you don't know who you're dealing with. And before social media blew up, there were like message boards for stock message boards. And a lot of guys got indicted by the Fed for pumping and dumping on those message boards because they were really designed for people that, just like Chastity says, don't want to do no research. They want somebody just to tell them what it is, and they start investing, and they don't really know this person. This is just a person on the other side of a message board. You don't really know who this person is. You can't see their face like me and Chastity, so you can't really develop any type of long-term study of this person, right? And often people were kind of getting thrown into these bad deals, but the person's attitude is that, well, I'm giving people what they want because they don't want to do any outside research. They just want to cut on the computer and be told, like, this is the next hot stock. You still see a little bit of that now. So I want to warn people about just putting all your investment decisions in the hands of a person, and you just have no idea who they are, right? You can't see their face. You can't develop a relationship with them. You can't get to know their behavior. You can't follow them like Chastity and get a understanding of what they're about and what they're doing, and it's starting to build some trust. It's just some random person. Because social media, there's a lot of that going on, and a lot of people have been caught up into that. So we got a young woman, she's 27, so she put she saved 14,000, right, from stimulus checks, and then she decided to put that savings into AMC, right? So she missed out on GameStop. I remember that happened. So she said, okay, AMC is gonna be the next hot thing. Her holdings grew by $2,000, and she chose to keep her money in the stock. A few weeks later, the stock dropped. She lost 10,000. So she probably came into it late, right? So she probably got on the AMC after the move already took place. So she lost 10,000 after it already grown by 2,000. Okay, so let me ask you a question, Chastity, because I know you teach people how to get in and out of the market, like with surgical precision. What do you think is the biggest obstacle to people when they're up on a trade or they're up on an investment, and what puts them in a position to hurt them when they already have realized some profit on the trade?
The discipline. I always teach them to take profit.
Okay.
So again, some people say you can go broke taking profit. How?
Yeah.
I just want them to show me how somebody who went broke taking profit. It sounds cute to go against the cliche, but I haven't seen anybody do that. So again, you made 2,000. I would have at least took out my initial investment and left what was still growing.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people, they don't know what to do. They'll just, I'm up $200, $300. Should I leave it in there? Should I take it out? At least take out your initial investment, have something. I always teach students, have a particular goal. When we enter the trade, I already know where I'm gonna exit. It's 30%. Or I'll say, okay, if it has more room, I'll get out at 50 to 100. But I have a set goal in mind. It's not just, I'm gonna get out when it hit $1 million. I can show you on the contract, it's not hitting $1 million. I can show you the max potential of this contract. But let's stay within the realm of the max potential. You can make $100 to $150 on this contract. Somewhere between $75 and $100, I'm gonna take profit because it could reverse on you. So I think them not having any goal in mind other than rich and $1 million or six figures, they don't have realistic views. They just have this synonymous number out there, and they want to get to that. When if they sat down and really had realistic views, again, 2,000 was a great return. She should have been done and walked away. This is the first time you're ever trading. You had a lot of capital into this project. That was a decent enough return to just leave that or just walk away.
Okay, so let me ask you a question, because I know you deal with a lot of traders. How have you been able to help people get rid of like that lottery mentality? Because some people, they come in, they see the gains that people make, and they come in kind of thinking that the market is like another form of lottery, right? And they try to move with it like it's a lottery. It's really not. And so you have these moves like GameStop, AMC. You have the move like Nvidia did last year. I know somebody did like probably $500,000 on contract. They probably put like 5,000 in. They put like $500,000 out on that Nvidia move from last year when it went from like 122 to 400. So you're going to always have that in the market. Tesla was known for that like 2020, 2021. But how have you been able to try to help people understand that like the market's not a lottery? It's full of money, but it's not like buying a cash 3 or buying a Powerball or making millions. Like, how have you been able to help people get to that understanding?
I try to have them compare it to the casino and take away the control of the casino.
Okay.
I tell them, once you get into a contract, you decide how much you're going to take and how much you're going to lose. Now, when you go into the casino, you put your 20 in the slot machine, you control the lever.
Yeah.
But you have no control. You're going to keep pulling it till it gives you $5. You get 10 here. You don't have a stop where it's just going to kick your money back out. if you set $15, okay, I win 15, it spits my money back out. When
Yeah.
you're in trading, if you set a stop loss or a take profit, it's going to cut you off.
Yeah.
Unless you manually stop it. And I don't show them how to do that.
Okay.
I say, if you find it, I'll explain it. But if you
Yeah.
don't know how to manually change your stops and take profits, I'm not going to show you. And it
Okay.
just gives them that they can't do something incorrectly if I don't teach them how not to do that. So I take that gambling spirit and let them know, no, all of this is strategic. We have a goal set in mind. We're going to get into this trade and get out. And it's really a psychological thing. I'm very repetitive with what I do. And I show them the trade, and I show them consistently taking 30%. Does it go higher? Yeah, I took 30% and I'm happy. That's what they fail to realize. People are not happy when they get that first win.
Mhm.
They want that, you've talked about it, that endorphin, that adrenaline to keep coming. So I want to keep winning. I think it's going to keep going higher. And I showed them, look, it's going to tank out here. You have a percentage. So let's take our money before it fails. And then once I showed them it failed, they was like, ooh, I would have lost my money because I felt like it was going to keep going. I'm like, I'm showing you. So once you've taught somebody how to gauge that theory, once they lose enough, they'll get tired and they'll follow direction. I'll tell them, we'll come back, we'll retest the try. Say, what happened? Did you follow the rules? No. That's the first thing. We're going to go through the step plan,
Yeah.
and they're going to tell me they didn't follow the rules. So I give them a set of rules. I tell anybody that trades me, if you can follow rules, we can make a lot of money. So once they had it out of their head, because they'll see a lot of trades that I've taken, a lot of paper trades that I've taken, showing them that theory, and they're like, oh, I can make this overnight. And I'm like, that's not what we do. Like, this takes a lot. I give you a edge by not having to study and work as hard as me because I'm giving you the strategy, but you got to follow directions.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important that you give them that, because one thing I learned over time is that on the majority of my bad trades, it's because I broke my own rules. It's rarely because I didn't know what was going on. Is I did something outside of what I should have been doing, often because a lot of times you get caught up in your own emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel a certain way about something, so you decide to break your rules about what you was doing that led you to your success, and then that's what gets you caught. But if you really study your life, that's what's been getting you caught your whole life. And so that's what a lot of people don't understand, is that trading often just puts a reflection back on how you're really living. Because often I've seen it time and time again, a person to be doing something, to be like, yeah, man, it was going good. I started going against what allowed me to get successful. And then that's how everything fell apart. And so that's something I really want to encourage people, whether they're in buying equities or trading, they're doing long-term investing. Once you establish a certain amount of rules that allow you to be successful, stick to those rules until it fails. But often when people, what can happen, and I've seen this even in my own life, you can get bored with success. It seems like it's coming too easy. So I got to try to create an obstacle in my life to make this interesting. And this is often what defeats us. And once you start to observe your behavior, you realize that a lot of people in this world are making what we call boring money. And a lot of people don't want boring money. They want it to be like a turn up just to make the money. And that's often how you get trapped in these type of situations.
That's exactly how I feel. I type it all the time. Boring money pays the bills.
Yeah.
I'll hit you with that 30% every day. Yeah, it's boring. It's not exciting. It's not the over 100%, but I'll show you those can be made too.
Yeah.
Again, I like the boring money pays the bills. That's just a statement for me. I like for my clients to get bored with it. I want them to get so repetitive that you walk away and find something else to do, because that's what you need to do once you start making this kind of money. Find you something else to do. Like, I literally got my camera right here.
Okay.
Trying to find something, other things to, instead of just sitting in the market every day. Because again, you can't make all the money.
Yeah.
What does that become? Another 9 to 5. You quit your job to come and trade full time, to be in front of the computer 8 to 3:30. That's another job.
Yeah.
So again, we want 2 or 3 trades, couple of hours, and then go on to live the rest of our life.
Yeah, definitely. And you're right about that boring money, because anybody that's watching this, if you go to like your grocery store, go down like the toilet paper aisle, like those is multi-million-dollar companies and they selling paper products, and so because they got coverage in the market, they in different retail outlets, but it's a very boring industry. There's nothing really exciting about selling tissue and toilet paper and paper towels, but those are multi-billion-dollar categories. And I think a lot of people want to really start asking themselves, do I really want to make money, or am I looking just to be entertained or be excited? Because often one don't necessarily bring the other. And if you can just accept, let me just make this money, and like Chastity say, go find some hobbies and things you want to do with your life that can fulfill you, it can often make it easier to make the money. Now, here's something I want to talk about, because I know you specialize in this, right? So we got Noah Reese. He was at Morehouse. So he read Intelligent Investor. that taught him how to invest in the stock market. So he invested in over 50 companies, big portfolio, Apple, Coca-Cola, started at 3,000, ended at 10,000. Now, one of the questions a lot of people gonna have about investing, they think they need to put a lot of money into it. Same thing about trading. I need a lot of money. In your experience, and I know you specialize in this, how have you been able to help people show that you don't need this large amount of money to get into the markets?
Basically, just looking at the overall market and those contract prices.
Okay.
So I stay in a range of companies that have contract prices under $100. So
Okay.
that it increases that high barrier to entry. They think they have to go trade Tesla and Nvidia, but those are $500 and $600 contracts. Most of the average people don't have that much money to gamble or risk in a 10% or 15% return trade.
Okay.
So they do have $50 to $100. That's Starbucks, or that's a dinner on a weekend, or a family outing that they could set to the side. And I even have them build that up. I say, before you come and work with me, if money is the problem, save $25 per week, have your $100 to put in your investment account, and we'll work with that. And then we're also going to cut that in half, because we're going to reduce our risk, and we're only going to trade with 50 of that 100. So we don't
Okay.
have to keep replenishing our account. I tell everybody, I blew enough accounts for all of us. I was trading DraftKings when we first started.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand how you don't make money when they go down. The put side hadn't got, but I was advancing myself. I was learning too quickly. I was like, oh, I got to go learn puts now. I just thought everything went up, but I didn't know how to do the reverse. So once you learn that and you find those contracts, again, I hunt on Sundays. I'm looking for profitable trades in these companies. So it does take some research. And then if you're too lazy to do the research, then you got to pay some other people to do the research for you. But
Definitely.
again, I like to teach all my students how to fish first, and then you can find another system to make the process faster for you. I don't want to call them lazy. It just makes it easier or faster for them, because everybody's lifestyle may not permit them the time to research.
Yeah.
And they may want to take those trades, but I do still try to give them the background and knowledge behind why we're taking those trades. So a lot of people give you the fish, or they just give you the fish and don't tell you the background. Oh, I had to hook the neck, or I got a new minnow. So I might tell them, this is how this trade is working. I break it down for them so they can at least have that information too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's really important what you're saying, because I think a lot of people, they believe, maybe because of what they've seen on television or what they've heard, is that you need all this money to get into the markets. And really, when you're looking at the markets, especially the way they are now, the barrier to entry has lowered through technology, through not having as much capital as you need. It used to be, if you want to get a brokerage account, you had to put like $25,000 into the account.
5,000.
Yeah, you don't have to do that anymore. And I think a lot of people don't understand, and especially the way we trade, because me personally, I don't know about you right now, but like, I don't trade on margin.
I still don't.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't have to hold a certain amount of money in my account to trade, because it's a cash account. I'm trading what's in the account. So if it's $10 in the account, I'm trading off $10.
Right.
And I think a lot of people don't understand that, because they're still operating with that old school mentality where everything was a margin account. So you had to put $25,000 to get funded so they could give you the margin so you can trade. You don't have to do that anymore. And so I think that's what you're talking about is really, really important. I want to really encourage people to understand that the markets can be a solution to your problem. And I want to really encourage you to get with people like Chastity that know what they're talking about. They know how to create a structure around you. They know how to teach you properly. They got a track record. They're not going to tell you that you got to put $25,000 on the table to get involved, and learn what you need to do to allow the markets to be a solution to your problem, right? I don't think the markets are going to be everything for you, but they can be a solution to your problem. So now you can go explore other parts of the world. And this is something that was talked about in this article. So in closing, Chaz, anything that you want to wrap up with?
Find your niche. I've
Okay.
seen a lot of things about the stock market, tech, owning your own business. So find your niche, find a group of people that are in that doing more than you. I like to surround myself with people that are smarter than me, better than me, have been in this industry longer than me. And I get praised about how fast I've learned, but I'm learning from some of the best people, because I surround myself. I'm in every class that they have. I'm in every free thing, whatever, because I want to be better. And that's what you have to learn about this stock market. It's not just I watch a video or I take a class and then I just go out here. You're still growing and building on it. And I still constantly learn. People don't think about that. Like, oh, once I'm done, I'm gonna just make money. You can, but you will still have to build. So having it, setting the proper expectation for the clients that come through here, is very important. It's not a get rich quick. But it can be lucrative for you. So setting an expectation, knowing that the barrier is low, I don't see why anybody's not doing it, but it worked great for me.
Definitely. I want to, get people to understand is what she's talking about is real. I want to really encourage everybody to take this video serious, take this article serious if you read it, and then really kind of ask yourself, how can you leverage the markets to get the life that you want? So I can be found online at Diamond Dave, Diamond_Dave. Chastity, if people want to reach out to you online, how can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Dr. Chaz. You can find me on TikTok at Chasing Bags Chaz. Also on YouTube at Know Better, Do Better Consulting. And on Facebook, just my name, Chastity Sandich. We can drop it in a link after this video.
Definitely. Make sure we put it in the description, all her contact information. Reach out to her. We top of the year. Want to really help encourage you to get something going before the year starts moving and you start getting caught up, because everybody I bring on my particular platform, they can put you in a better position. I don't take any money to put people on. I put people on because I believe in what they're doing and they have a track record and I know that they can produce. And so that's why they're on this particular platform. So I want to really encourage you to do what you can do to put yourself in the best position. Y'all be good, man. I'll talk to y'all later.